Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. Lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to the Loving Life family. And not such a big welcome to the Google moderators. Think about that one. Now, I have some very, very important information to let everybody know before we get on to tonight's scandal involving this large property at Redan, which was once owned by, apparently it's still owned by Eskom, but no one really knows. Now, the scandal is, you remember the coffin case, where those two young white men were incarcerated by this magistrate for 17 years. And it was later overturned on appeal because they had found that what this magistrate had done was completely ridiculous. But these poor two guys spent about 2 years behind bars in a South African prison. Now, this is a real concern. We heard what happened in Patriots. Those 4 white men who are accused of murder, and we know that the docket put together by the police is fabricated. That's common knowledge. Guess who the magistrate hearing the case is? I kid you not. It's the same one who heard the coffin case. Think about it. All right, now, tonight, Elsabe Juyn from Priority for Minorities joins us to discuss this very suspect sale of Eskom land to a well-connected ANC cadre. Let's have a look at the property before I get Elsabe on. You can see it's got 175 different rental properties. It's a huge property, and it's got a community center, and it's got a fascinating history. But things went really pear-shaped in early January this year for all those tenants in that particular block of land. And we'll be discussing that tonight. It's called the Redan property. Let me get Elsabe Juyn on. Hi, Elsabe.
Good evening, Scott.
Okay, I'm just waiting for your camera to kick into action. At the moment, I just see a little icon. Oh, there you are. Very pretty. There she is. There's Elsabe. Now, Elsabe, there's a very disturbing situation happening. I've just given us a brief introduction to the Redan situation. But before we get onto that, now we've been following another case, which is Flippy van Dijk, the guy, the Scotborough farmer. I know that Dr. Peter Munns got involved in trying to get something happen. I think you've actually met with Peter. He actually saw the videos and said, hey, this is ridiculous. Can you give us an update on what's happening with that particular case now?
We've been to Scotborough last week. We booked at a guest house for a whole week, and our flying tickets were booked for a week to go down. And on the first day, we got this sad news that the magistrate's daughter was diagnosed with COVID-19, and he had to go into self-isolation, which meant we didn't have 1 hour of court appearance the whole week. And we were stuck in Scotborough. So it was quite disappointing.
How long has this been going on for now?
If we appeared, we were set down for 4 days.
Yeah.
The first day would have been the 17th day in court.
Without anything happening?
So nothing happened, it's a disappointment. And we're still busy with the second state witness. So we still have a long way to go. But the matter is now set down for a week at the end of May. So hopefully we will continue then.
Right. Now, has IPID done what they're supposed to do yet? Have you had any feedback on that?
I haven't heard from IPID, nothing, no. But I must follow it up. I must tell you the delays on my side. Yeah. I'm running around so much, I haven't spoken to IPID.
Well, you've got a lot on your plate.
I can tell you that the civil matter is also running. Well, two of them. The one is in July on the roll here in Pretoria. And sorry. The one is in July in Pretoria, and it's to clear his criminal record. You will remember that he succeeded on appeal.
Yeah.
On the first matter, he was found innocent, but they refused to clear his criminal record. So we brought an application in the High Court.
How can you be a criminal if you're found not guilty?
Well, when he was found guilty in the magistrate's court, when he was found guilty in the magistrate's court, he got this criminal record, but on appeal, they need to clean the record.
Right.
And they didn't do it.
Well, why are we surprised? Okay, now let's get on to the main story tonight. Now we're talking about a property that's got a very, very unique history, and it's called Redan, which is spelled R-E-D-A-N. And
yes.
What I'd like you to do, just to start off, is to tell people the history of Redan, how it came about, the background to it, the area that it came about in, etc., etc. Over to you.
With the gold rush in the 1930s in the Witwatersrand area around Johannesburg, there was a shortage of electricity. So they erected a power station on this piece of land. It was called the Klip Power Station, Klip like in stone.
Right.
Klip is Afrikaans for stone, yeah. And next to this power station, there was a coal mine, the Springfield Coal Mine. And the coal was supplied from the mine to the power station. And they made electricity there for the gold fields.
Right.
they needed accommodation for the people close by, so they built these houses. But it's not only houses, it's a recreation center. It has sport fields, a tennis court, like all the mines had this recreation areas around them in the old days. And there are also single quarters for the guys that are not married. There are workshops and factories, and it's on 4 farms. 4 farms come together on Redan. So the mine is on the one, the factories is on another one, and so on. Yeah. So it's 4 pieces of land, and with all these buildings on it.
Right.
And that's Radon. So the people stayed there. In the 80s, they closed the power station and they stopped the mine, and all these houses were available. So they decided to rent it out to lower income people, mostly pensioners and people with not very high income. So it was rather cheap accommodation. But not like a squatter camp, just affordable for people with a low income. And the people rented those places for all these years, up until recently.
Yeah, well, this is where you come in. Now, there are something like 175 properties, aren't there, that Eskom's been renting since 1984?
Yeah, some of them are in very bad condition. And some of them are now demolished because of the bad condition they were in, and because of the neglect. They didn't keep up the properties anymore. There's water problem, leaks and stuff, and some of the properties are severely damaged. But yeah, I don't think 176 is occupied anymore. But yeah, that was the original number.
Right. Now, apart from rent, what were the tenants' other costs that they had to pay?
Oh, they had to pay electricity and water, which is normal. When you stay at any rental house, you have to pay for your water and electricity as well. So that was additional. Yeah.
Now, some of the tenants have been living there for decades, haven't they?
Yeah, the one lady, one of our applicants, we have 22 applicants in the court case, but we'll talk about the court case, stays there for 23 years already, so they're there for a long time. There are people there that's only a year or 2 there, but there are people that are there for pretty long time, yeah.
Right. Now all that changed horribly in December last year when Eskom sent a letter to all the tenants. Can you tell us about that letter that the tenants received?
It was a short note. It's about 4 lines, where they said they have ceded all their rights to Builders One Stop. Nobody knew who is Builders One Stop.
Right.
But it seemed later that it's a company by the name of Builders One Stop Center Pty Limited, but they didn't even put in the full name of the person. At first I thought they are going to do the administration, but later on it seemed that they sold the property to this Builders One Stop. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Look, I'm just going to put up a screen of Enka Properties, which is another company owned by this fellow Barnabas Dubie, which is involved in property services, and you can see the web page, property management and administration, client-based property investors, financial institutions, reporting, risk management, portfolio under management. Then it gives a whole lot of properties that they've got. And then right at the bottom, there's the guy, Barnabas Dubie, and the chairman of this particular company he owns, and then the non-executive director. Now, it's Koketso Moseneki. Is that his daughter?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the guy at all.
Right.
And I don't know his links. I only saw what he did in Redan. That's all.
Okay.
I didn't made a study of him. actually I want to ignore him and I want to get him out of the Radon. I
Yeah.
don't want to give him too much attention.
But clearly he is very well connected with the ANC because he knows some high-powered
Yes.
people, and he's one of those cadres we talk about who's got his nose deep in the trough.
Yes, some of the companies also have dealings going on with De Beers. And De Beers is in diamonds, and Springfield mine is coal. So I'm very suspicious about the coal mine that is on Redan, because the Chinese want coal, and with the
Yeah.
Guptas gone, somebody else must supply the coal, So it makes one suspicious. Did he buy it for Redan or did he buy it for the coal mine?
Right. Okay. Now, let's just have a look at the title deed. I'm just going to put that up on the screen. This is a deed of sale from Eskom Holdings to Builders One Stop Centre Pty Limited, and that's dated the 26th of April 2018. Can you tell us about that?
Okay, I also thought that was the date of the contract. The lady that acted on behalf of Eskom, Mrs. Els, she said in her affidavit in court, we are wrong if we say that is the contract date. That is the date of the template she used to draw up the contract.
What? That makes no sense. No, just talking about this woman, Lanny Els. Okay, yeah. Please go ahead, and tell us when the actual transfer actually took place. Then.
She didn't supply us with a contract, but Dube supplied us with a contract, and it was signed the 10th of October last year.
Right.
According to him. Yeah, but some of the properties, if you look at a deed of sale, some of those properties does not even exist. I did deed searches in the deeds office, and there's no such properties as some of them. Some of the other properties is not their property. It's owned by a McKay estate. And they have a 99-year rental agreement on it, but they can't sell it. It's not their property. So there's a lot of mistakes on this contract.
Right.
If you look further in the contract, I didn't send you the whole contract, but the purchase price is 14 million. Now, if you take into mind it's 4 farms, with all these houses, with the mine, with the factories, with the workshops.
That's nothing. That should be about R500 million.
Yeah, we believe, okay, this stuff is neglected, but still 14 million is very little for what he's buying, So we are also suspicious about
houses. Wow. And just I need to just put a comment out there. I've heard through the grapevine that the woman who's the property manager for Eskom in that area, Lani Els, at the very time that this agreement was signed, suddenly became the beneficiary of a chicken farm. Now, I don't know if you've heard that, but it's apparently this is quite widely talked about. And the question being asked is, how did she get the money as an Eskom employee to buy a chicken farm? And the timing of her acquiring that chicken farm is very, very interesting at the very time that she is involved on behalf of Eskom in the sale of this property to Builders One Stop and Barnabas Dube. Anyway,
Yes.
look, I'm not going to ask you to comment on that because I'm just making those
I
allegations.
heard the gossip, but I don't know if it's true. Yeah.
Okay, we've talked about the deed of sale. Now, once Barnabas Dube had got his hands on this property, or apparently has got his hands on this property, what was the first thing he did? It was raising the rent. Do you want to tell us about that? What actually happened there?
Yeah, he raised the rent with about, I don't have the figures in front of me, but it's about 100%.
Wow.
Um, in January. And then at the end of January, he changed the company's name to DB West Properties. And when he changed the name, he asked the people to sign new agreements in the new company's name, and again he raised the rent with another about 40%, 50%. Yeah. So where the people paid roundabout, it differed from home to home, but it's more or less 2,500 Rand per month. The rent is now 6,000 Rand per month.
Wow.
And the garages are not included anymore. They have to rent the garage separately for an additional 450 Rand per month. And he put up a boom gate at the entrance, and he says it's for their safety. And each car needs a sticker to enter through the boom gate, and that is an additional 150 Rand per month. Now, the boom gate is ridiculous because the fences around Radon is down. You can walk into Radon any place. Now he puts up a boom gate at the entrance, and he say that's for the safety of the people. People don't need a road to commit crimes. They go in anywhere.
Yeah.
And he wants them. It's just a way to make money out of these people, you know. And if they don't pay, he gives them a letter that he will evict them within 7 days.
Wow.
If they don't sign this new agreements with this new companies, he will evict them within 7 days. He has a standard letter which he dishes out. You will be evicted within 7 days. Now, this whole eviction of him, in South Africa, you need a court order to evict anybody. You can't just go and throw somebody on the street.
Yeah,
there's a due process which you have to go through court.
Yeah, we will get to that in a second, because before we do, because I'd like to go through that process with you separately. There was one of the tenants, and I should mention here that the tenants are blacks, coloureds, and white people. So it's not just white people living there. It's a mix of people.
No, it's all the colours, yeah.
Yeah, but there was one white fellow, Wessel Grief, who was basically thrown out of his house. Can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, Wessel Grief is a pensioner. He's 64 years old. And he stayed in house number 62. He was in arrears with his rent, I must tell you that. But he was in arrears with Eskom, not with Barnabas Dube, because he was thrown out of his house on the 14th of January. That is 2 weeks after Barnabas took over. So Barnabas couldn't throw him out because he didn't pay his rent, and he didn't collect the money that was arrears for Eskom.
Now, just a simple question, Elsabe. How would Barnabas Dube, who has nothing to do with Eskom on a, basically the property level, how would he have known that this guy was in arrears with his rent? I mean, how would he have known?
Well, he must have get the information, but he can't. Even if Grief was thrown out because of the arrears with Eskom, it cannot be done by Barnabas Dube. But in any case, it happened on a Sunday. He heard a commotion in his outer buildings. He looked out of the window and he saw that his fence was cut. From the top to the bottom, it was opened like a gate.
Wow.
And he saw people in the outbuildings going through his stuff and, searching there for valuables and etc. So he went out at his back door and he told the people, "Get off my property. You shouldn't be here." And when he opened the back door, they came into his house through the door, and they started searching through his things in the house. He couldn't control what they were taking because the one was in the one room and the other one in the other room, So he called the police and he asked for help. He said police must come and help him because he thought he was burgled. And well, the police came there and they asked what was going on, and this guy told the police they had the right to be there. So they called Barnabas Dube, and he came there, and he told the police that he is the new owner, and this is his property, and he will decide who will stay in what property, and Mr. Greef won't stay in that property. So Mr. Greef had to leave that property without his possessions. He took just a few essentials, his clothes and so on. And since then, he's sleeping next to the river in his car. He has nowhere to stay.
Now those guys who broke into his property, apparently they were all high on dagga, weren't they, at the time?
Yeah, and they were working for Mr. Dube. One of them made an affidavit in the court papers, and they, Mr. Dube and this guy that helped with the eviction, they stated that Mr. Greef left out of his own. He was never evicted. Now, I can't understand, how will you leave a house out of your own to go and sleep in a car next to a river? It doesn't make sense to me. But luckily, he also made an affidavit to the magistrate in Meyerton. He tried to get assistance from the magistrate, like an interdict or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't successful. The magistrate didn't want to help him. But the court papers has the stamp of the magistrate on it, where he said, I was evicted from my house and I have nowhere to stay. And the stamp of the magistrate confirms the date when he was evicted. You know, it's in the next week. So, we have real evidence that it was true. I spoke to his immediate neighbor. She ran out and she tried to stop them from harassing him and throwing him out, but she couldn't succeed. But she saw everything, she heard everything. So they were witnesses, the people in Redan saw what happened. And they are scared because they wonder who's next.
Yeah, but the law doesn't seem to account for anything anymore in South Africa. And I understand that the new tenant in the house that he was thrown out of is Dube's daughter. Is that correct?
I heard the story as well, but I made effort to find out, and I understand she's only an employee of him. The rumors that it's his daughter is not true. Yeah.
Okay, but it's someone who's employed by Dube who's now taken possession of the house which Greef was thrown out of.
Yeah, it's the only house in Redan now with solar panels and solar geyser, and it was totally revamped for her.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Let's continue with our journey here. You mentioned about the tenants at Redan being terrified. Now, there are other reasons they're terrified as well, aren't they? Do you want to go through those reasons why basically everybody now doesn't know if they've got any security? They've been living there for years, and now with the new owners, they just don't know where they're going, what's happening. Do you want to take us through that?
They can't afford this higher rent.
Yeah.
And all the accessories they have to pay, like the garage and the boom gate and everything. And they complain, some of those houses are really not healthy to stay in. The one lady, which is one of my applicants, is leaving Redan now because of her health. She's an asthma sufferer. And the mildew in the house is so bad that it affects her health. She has to leave now.
Wow, that is just shocking. Now, obviously, you have the organization Patriots for Minorities, which does some incredible stuff. I mean, we love covering your stuff because you really are making a difference. And what you've done in recent weeks is you've actually approached Esther. Now they've been involved in deciding on where to go with this legal action.
No,
Can you take us through that?
ESTA is an act.
Yeah.
And the court that decide on ESTA is the Land Claims Court.
Right.
The Land Claims Court, yeah. It's also the court that work with the restitution of land. You know, the people that claim land from long time ago, they also go to that court. It's a very limited court, but it also deals with the ESTA cases. Now, when ESTA, it's the extension of Security Tenants Act. So it secures the
It gives them some
resident-
security, the tenants some
Yeah.
security. Yeah.
Yeah. This act got a lot of criticism when it came onto into law. It was mainly designed for farm workers. When a farmer in the employment of his farm workers, they have nowhere to go, and they use this act to keep on staying on the farm. So that was the main use for the act. Now, I don't want to bring in a race issue, because all these tenants I'm acting for is all the colors of the rainbow.
Right.
But this act is normally for black people where white people throw them out. So the surprise was great when white people used that act to secure their tenancy.
Yeah.
And they're not used to it, you know. It's different, and that's what we at Patriot for Minorities always try to tell the people to do. Use the Constitution in your favor. Use the Equality Act in your favor. All these acts that was designed to punish us, turn them around and use them in your favor. It's for all. It's equal to all the citizens. But we white people are not geared to stand up like that, you know, and to protest and to use that legislation. So we need to teach the people to use this stuff. Yeah, so it's very funny that we use ESTA. We were able to use ESTA because Redan is not a proclamated town. It is houses on farmland. The land is still zoned as farmland.
Right.
And that is why we could use ESTA.
Okay. Wow. So let's get down to the nitty gritty here. Who actually owns Redan? This property that this fellow is now claiming he owns. Do we know who actually owns it?
3/4 of Redan is owned by Eskom, and the other quarter is owned by McKay Estates. It
Right.
was formerly the owner was McKay, but the original title deed is 1910. So I suppose the guy died, the owner died, and it's now in his estate, McKay Estate.
Right. But on this deed of sale dated, which has got the wrong date on, it actually talks about Eskom selling this property through this lady with the chicken farm, Lillian Denise Else, and Builders One Stop Centre. Isn't that sort of proof that the property has now been put into someone else's hands? Or did the title deed say something different?
The title deed is still with Eskom. This property can't be transferred. If you go to the bottom of that page, you will see that she listed different properties there.
Yeah.
And she mentioned very close to the bottom that a piece of this property is not owned by Eskom, but they leased it for 99 years and they are in the process to acquire the property. Due to prescription. Now she's referring to acquisitive prescription, which is a form of getting property in South Africa. If I have a farm and I drive over your farm for more than 30 years, I can go to court and say, I used that road for 30 years. I want a right registered in my name for a servitude to keep on using that road. So there is such a thing, but you can't rent a place and then say, I acquired it by prescription, because it's based on a lease. It's not a use like acquisitive prescription requires.
Right.
So she's totally confused with this legal term and that situation. But furthermore, the properties she states that doesn't belong to Eskom, one of them is the property of Eskom. And the properties in the upper paragraph, which she states is the property of Eskom, one of them isn't the property of Eskom. So she's so confused herself between the properties. She doesn't even know what Eskom owns or doesn't own. The whole deed of sale is a mess. You can't transfer those properties in the... And Builders One Stop doesn't exist anymore. It's now DB West Properties. So if it's registered, it must be registered then in DB West Properties, because Builders One Stop changed its name.
Wow.
There's a lot of problems there.
Well, I think that she might be losing a few chickens as well when this comes out. Now,
I understand there's a new strain of
chicken flu.
Chicken flu in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think she might just be stricken with it. Now, the paragraph you're referring to, which makes this title deed transfer null and void, is the parties record that Eskom is not the registered owner of the proposed unregistered portion 78 to Farm Cookfontein 545 IQ and proposed portion of portion 67 unregistered Waldrift 599 IQ, but has been using the property for the last 99 years. Now, that basically invalidates the entire transfer, doesn't it? Because what she said there is wrong.
Yeah, they can't give effect to that deed of sale because the properties are confused.
Yeah.
No.
Not the owner.
Who's that?
It's Marius. He's trying to coach me from the side.
Marius, come and say hello.
Hello, Scott.
How are you, buddy?
I'm fine.
I still can't see you. Stick your head in front of the camera. Come on.
Yeah, I haven't combed my hair.
Oh, look. Hey, you're sounding like a lady now.
Yeah. No, this Eskom thing, that contract is absolutely invalid, actually illegal.
Yeah. As I said, I think Lanny Else is going to lose a lot of her chickens.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, what she did is disgusting.
There are a lot of other people's lives and livelihood
Yeah.
at stake. Livelihood or at stake here.
Yeah, no, it's just shocking what she's done. And does De Redan know about this, do you think?
Well, I served our application on the writer with great difficulty. I got his personal email address.
Right.
And I sent it to him personally, and I got a read report from him. And when I spoke to Eskom's attorneys that act on their behalf at first, they asked for extension of time and etc. I told them my fight is not against Eskom. I don't think Eskom is the culprit here. And I was so surprised when I received the court documents from Eskom and Dubi, and I saw that they are working together. They are lying together. But the only deponent, and you must remember in the court case, Eskom is the first respondent.
Right.
But Mr. De Redan, in his personal capacity, is the second respondent. So she made an affidavit on behalf of both Eskom and Andre De Redan. Now I have a problem with her authority to make that affidavit.
What we're talking about here is that same chicken farm woman, Lanny Else, who's actually acting on behalf of Eskom in this court action, isn't she?
Yes, and on behalf of Andre de Ruyter.
Yeah.
Now you can with the necessary resolutions and authority, you can act on behalf of a company, but you can't act on behalf of another natural person.
Well, it sounds to me like she doesn't know what she's doing.
Well, the person that gave her the authorization, it came from the legal department, a woman by the surname of Otto. But the woman that gave her the authorization or delegated the authority to her also have delegated authority, which she received from higher up. Now there's a maxim in law. And the Latin is delegare delegatus non potest, which means you can't delegate delegated authority further down the line. If you have delegated authority, you can't delegate it to somebody else.
Yeah. This is sounding more and more like the discussion we had last night with the banks and investors and SBIs and loans, and where they get chucked around all over the place and packaged. And yeah, look, the world is a crazy place, but I totally get what you're saying. Now,
if you look at that press release of Andre de Ruyter, which I sent to you.
Yes, I was about to say that, yes. He is now talking about selling property to raise funds.
Yeah, it would raise around about 10 billion rand, which will help Eskom quite a lot. But he said it will go through a tender process with National Treasury, not even with Eskom. National Treasury would put it out on tender.
Now that's where the Estat comes in, isn't it? Because the importance of Section 51C. Tell us how that applies here.
That's a Public Management Finances Act. It says how to manage state finances, and state-owned properties must be managed in a certain way and protected in a certain way. But the authority lies with National Treasury, because they must look after the money. They must make sure that the property is sold for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's to the benefit of the government to sell this property. It can't be done by a
private sale.
Property manager of a certain area under the table without a tender process. She made an allegation in her court papers that the proper tender process was followed, but she didn't attach the tender documents at all. So we believe there's something fishy there. But yeah, the court also got the idea that everything they said in their affidavits is not true. So the court made an order on the 16th of April that Mr. de Ruyter in person must report to the court on the 7th of May.
Wow, that's
regarding
annoy him.
Regarding the title deeds, the ownership of the properties, the validity of the deed of sale, whether the rights of Eskom could have been ceded, or did she have the authority to cede the rights and everything. So we're waiting for Andre de Ruyter. It's ironic. She said she reserved the right to answer to that later. So our advocate says, you're not Mr. de Ruyter, you can't reserve the right.
Now,
yeah.
I just have one comment here to make about this Lani Els, and that is she better get out of chicken farming and go into duck farming, because at least ducks can swim away. You know, I think her chicken farm is history. Once Barnabas Doobie, who appears to be a rather...
Maybe she bought a chicken farm with hard-earned money over many years.
yeah. Tell me another one. But I can clearly see this Barnabas Doobie is not someone you want to get on the wrong side. You know, clearly he's. I don't want to go there. So
people told me I must watch my back now.
Well, I just want to say that we've clearly covered why the sale of the property does not look fair dinkum. It looks very suspicious.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so we know that Andre de Ruyter is selling property to raise funds, but that the whole question is, as you've just said now, is that there's a process that needs to be followed. And this Lani else has clearly not followed that process. And if you have a look at the deed of transfer, there's some things which are horribly wrong with that deed of transfer. Now, tell me what happened. You had a court action on the 16th of April. What actually happened there?
Well, there were so many disputes that the court couldn't make a real decision. We said Wesselgreef was evicted, and Dube said he left on his own accord. We said we believe that the contract is not through a proper process, and Lani L said there was proper tenders out. But there's too little documentation before court. It's just stuff they say, but they don't attach the documentation to the affidavits.
But don't tenders have to appear in the papers and stuff like that?
It has, but the court is lenient, and that's why the court said, okay, I'll give Andre de Ruyter the opportunity to bring the documentation to court, and then we all appear in full armor on the 21st of May, and then the court will make a decision after he saw what Andre de Ruyter is going to present to him. Yeah.
You know what I would suggest you do? This is just a thought. Andre de Ruyter is going to be in the court in May. Why don't you get 3 different real estate valuers to value that property that's been sold to Dube? And, let's say they come up with, say, 500 million rand. And you actually table those in the court in front of de Ruyter and say, how can you sell these properties for 14 million rand when we have got 3 independent real estate valuers to come in and value the properties, and they valued it at 500 million rand. And, that would be a huge story, an incredibly embarrassing story for de Ruyter.
We looked at the selling price of properties in the area, and it's clear it's not realistic. But we don't even want to give them rope to pay a higher price or anything. Our viewpoint is this is an invalid contract. Dube is there without any legal grounds to be there. He's bullying these people without the authority to do so, and it must stop. So our case is to protect these people inside Radon, to get Willem Greef back in a house in Radon, and that is the purpose of our application.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, but I still think that when you consider that Eskom are really under the spotlight when it comes to their management of money and property and assets, and if it was brought up in court that this Lani else had disposed of this property worth maybe 20 times more than what it was sold for, that would be a huge story, a hugely embarrassing story, and just sitting on top of the illegality of what they've done. De Ruyter sitting there in the courtroom hearing this would be furious. I mean, he would, because let's face it, he knows what the property is. I don't think he knows that it is sold. But I was wondering if Lani Els and Dube ever intended to transfer this property into Dube's name. This whole thing is so sloppy. The contract is so sloppy that it doesn't look as if they really intended for the property to be transferred. It's just a cover to explain his presence in Redan and to bully the people. So you're suggesting he might not have paid a cent?
He didn't.
He hasn't paid a cent for the properties yet?
Not yet. in
Wow.
in South Africa, you pay the purchase price
Yeah.
on transfer. So
I see what you're saying. Okay, now tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm I'm a bit of an ignoramus when it comes to real estate. So what you're saying is that you enter into a deal for the sale of the property, but you don't pay a cent until you've actually got the transfer title deed. So you actually now are the owner of the title. That's when you pay the seller. So what Doobie has done in the meantime is just because he's entered into a deed of sale with Eskom, he is now
took
starting
possession.
to, yeah, he's taken possession, and he's
Yeah.
now, so he's like acting like the landlord, even though he hasn't put one brass penny towards the property. Wow, that's a
Yeah,
great
and
deal if you can get it, isn't it?
yeah, and they never intend to transfer the property. You
So,
must remember, mineral rights in South Africa
ah,
was taken away from landowners a couple of years ago, about 15, 20 years ago. It was always part of your title deed, and the government took all the mineral rights away, and it vests now in the state. So he can mine on the Springfield mine without being the owner of the property. Don't you think that's where he's aiming?
that's the coal mine we're talking about.
And they're busy getting permissions for the coal mine.
Oh, wow.
The
Wow,
process is going,
this is getting more and more sus. It's just
and
extraordinary.
and I don't know if you know of the terrible pollution in the Vaal River.
Yeah.
Now, Redan is about, I say, 5 kilometers from where the Klip River runs into the Vaal River. The Klip River is 1 kilometer from this coal mine.
Oh, no.
So all this rubbish from the coal mine will run into the Klip River, which will contribute to further pollute the Vaal River with heavy metals, which is even worse than sewage. You know, the sewage pollution, after 2 seasons of rain, it's gone. But the heavy metals doesn't run down the river. It stays in the river and it pollutes the river,
Yeah.
makes it poisonous.
Wow.
So it's environmental risk as well.
Yeah, look, I did a search on this Barnabas Doobie, and his name comes up in all sorts of weird and wonderful areas. I mean, he's clearly very well connected with the ANC.
And with the police.
Oh, really? The police as well?
The police helped him to evict Wesselgreef. They came there and they helped him that Wesselgreef should be evicted.
Wow.
They assisted him on that Sunday.
Wow. That is just shocking. But
And you know how much I love the police, eh?
well, I just think that this whole situation we're talking about here just is par for the course with the way the ANC cadres work. You know, they just there's no real interest in following the law. They just do it their way, and you know, nobody else really matters. It's just that they're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Okay, now what is the next step? So you've got this thing happening in May. What happens to all the tenants? Let's say I'm a tenant at Redan, and I failed to pay my rent. Can they, under this null and void agreement that Barnabas Doobie's got because he doesn't own the property yet, can they kick other people off legally?
Well, I advised the people in Radon to keep on paying towards Eskom, because we only acknowledge the contract with Eskom. And I say, you mustn't stop paying, pay Eskom. So they keep on paying Eskom. And yeah, there's an interim court order that says Barnabas Doobie mustn't bother the people. He shouldn't evict them. He shouldn't terrorize them, and so on. It's a bit calmer now in Redan, and people well, everybody's looking forward to the end of the case, but they tell me it's a little bit better with the interim order. He's moved out with his people and so on. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But
is there anything else you want to discuss that we haven't actually covered yet regarding this?
no, not regarding Radon.
Okay. Well, is there any other cases you'd like to touch on while we've got you here?
Your remark in the beginning was a little bit wrong. I just want to rectify your statement.
Yeah, tell me.
It's not the magistrate that's the same as in the coffin case, but the prosecutor.
Ah, okay. Okay, guys, it wasn't the magistrate, but it's a prosecutor. But the prosecutor still plays a very important role.
If I may say something about that.
Please do.
The prosecutor decide. He makes a decision which evidence is placed before court, and how it's placed before court, and which he leaves out, and so he manipulates the evidence before court. And I can tell you that firsthand, because I was part and parcel of the coffin case the whole way through it, and I saw this guy. He manipulated the evidence. At one stage, we asked for Victor Molotswa, that's the guy in the coffins, original affidavit. And he said he'll bring it to court the next morning. He forgot it in his hotel room. So the next morning he said, no, it disappeared from his hotel room. Now, you know, that sort of games is what they play. And I read the record of the Kulini case as well, Doornwaard and his friend. And the same thing happened. The Supreme Court of Appeal made strong opinions about how the evidence was manipulated by the prosecutor. In the coffin case, I've been in the Supreme Court of Appeal when the matter was heard on their appeal. And the 5 judges in the Supreme Court of Appeal said there's not one piece of evidence of the state that they can rely on. It's all lies.
Wow. And you know, it's interesting you say that, because with the Patriots case, the evidence that was actually presented was fabricated. And that's come up from, you know, people who witnessed the whole thing. And the key element there is that all 4 farmers have been charged with murder. 2 people were killed. 1 death happened when one of the thugs who came onto the property shot his own brother while they were fighting over a gun. So I don't understand how that the white farmers were involved in that. And the second guy who was shot was actually in self-defense. The farmer shot because this guy was shooting all over the place.
I saw the prosecutor. He is Robert Molokwane. I saw he argued that they came all with the common intent to murder because they wore padded jackets and they come with guns. They come for a war. And that gave them the common intent to murder. And that's why they're all charged with murder.
That's nonsensical.
But you know, this guy, with the first bail application of the coffin guys in Middelburg in 2016, he was also the prosecutor at their bail application.
Yeah.
And he brought in a lot of race. And racial issues, and there was a lot of commotion outside the court. The ANC were there, the EFF were there, the DA were protesting there. It was loud, it was violent. I didn't go to court once in that whole trial without being attacked outside court.
Wow.
They spit on you, they swear at you, they pushed you around. And I was never able to get into court without being pushing around. And the police stand and they watch and they do nothing to protect the legal team. But what I want to say is he made a huge fuss of the protesters outside the court. And part of the judgment of that magistrate was that the people should stay in prison for their own safety. Look how dangerous is it outside. We were not the attorneys of record. I only got the transcribed record later, and I read the whole thing. I was very upset, and then we approached that same magistrate again when we got instructions after the first attorney. We got instructions and we approached that same magistrate again, and we argued that you can't keep people in prison because of people outside. That's not how the law works. There are constitutional matter that says it doesn't work like that. So we got them out on bail, pending the court case. But I see he's using that very same argument now in Patriots. I recognize all the symptoms.
Yeah. I don't understand how that guy can still be a public prosecutor. I mean, look at the situation in America with Derek Chauvin, that guy who put his knee on George Floyd. He would have been mugged by BLM if he had been. It's crazy. The system is completely broken in America. It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I believe he should have been guilty of culpable homicide, not murder, but yeah. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, clearly the jury had no choice but to find him guilty. Otherwise,
I think they tried to, I think they tried to avoid an small war or something.
Well, Minneapolis is burning anyway, so go figure.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Elsabe. It's always a pleasure chatting to you. And look, we'll keep covering your cases that you fight for the minority people, because clearly the justice system in South Africa is terribly broken, and it's good to have people like you around.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to come onto your program.
You're very, very welcome.
Good night.
Okay, take care. Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, guys, that was Elsabe Juyn, and wow, what incredible work Patriots for Minorities are doing. And look, we will support them how and where we can. And while I've still got Elsabe here, oh no, she's gone. Okay. But if you Google Patriots for Minorities, you'll be able to come up with their webpage. And if you'd like to make a donation or financially help them, please just go to their website, and I'm sure they've got a donation button there somewhere. All right, guys, please take care. Have a great evening. And tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, we have another live stream, of course. And I'll just check what it is. Give me a second, guys. And while I'm checking, don't forget 6 and 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, I will be talking to Patriots, and I will be talking to Jarrett to get an update on how their trip is going. Okay, now tomorrow night, okay, I've got a very, very interesting discussion. I'm talking to King Michael. He's a Khoi king, and he comes from Paul Rue, and we met Aubrey. Remember Aubrey, those who watched our coverage of the Walk of Faith walkers at Paul Rue? Well, Aubrey is involved with King Michael, and through that we've actually got King Michael coming on. We're going to be talking about property rights, the original settlers of South Africa, which were the Khoi people, not the Bantu people. So we're going to be talking about a lot of controversial things relating to property rights and the rights of the first inhabitants of South Africa. Okay, having said that, please have a great evening, and thank you to the moderators for looking after the side chat, and have a great evening. I'll leave the side chat open for a few minutes so you can say your goodbyes. I've rambled on enough. Take care, and hope to see you tomorrow morning.